You're watching Byline Wilmington on CBS 10 WILM. Here's your host, Don Ansell.
14-year incumbent 7th District U.S. House Congressman Mike McIntyre is our guest, running for re-election on the November ballot. Excuse my vocal issues. Congressman, I said after the break we'd talk about what kind of job you think the president's doing. What do you think?
Well, I think he's got a lot of challenges, and I think that that's part of what our job in the Congress is to do, is to make sure that as we make decisions on legislation, that my first job as a representative of this area and the people here is to look out for our interest and how that then is reflected on the national issues. And so when we talk about the issues, whether it's involving national security and our wonderful military bases here in eastern North Carolina, you know I serve on the Armed Services Committee, or honoring our veterans, or dealing with the economy, which is something we're very focused on right now, or helping with education. These are all areas that we've got to make sure that we have strong leadership. And you know, I've had the chance to work under both Republican and Democratic presidents, Republican and Democratic speakers, and Republican and Democratic majorities. And every time I've tried to work on what is the issue and how does it affect our area. And you know what, and I'm going to fight for our area, no matter if it's a Republican or a Democrat in those other seats.
Do you think, and this is Republican and some Tea Party proponents are saying that America's on the wrong track. We need to take America back. Is America on the wrong track?
Well, no doubt. There are a lot of things that are on the wrong track in America right now, and I agree with that.
Like?
Well, one thing right now are things that are going on in the economy, which we are trying to help with, and I think that's the major thing. And my focus right now is to make sure we're doing everything we can to do to help jobs. One of those is in the area of small business. That's why I work so closely with
Did you support the president's initiative on tax benefits for small business owners?
Tax benefits? Yes. Yeah, we just had a Small Business Tax Relief Act we passed.
You pay, and you
yeah, I did. In
that.
fact, I have a 100% record, not just a passing grade, but 100% record with NFIB, the National Federation of Independent Business, which is the leading small voice for small business in America. And not only did I gain their endorsement because I've been right there working on these business and pro-job issues, but also the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Both of those groups normally only endorse Republicans. In this race, they knew that I had been there for jobs and business development. I've had a history working with our local chambers. We just hosted the Wilmington Chamber and other area chambers last month for a business summit in Washington. And working on economic development is key. That means working with our community colleges on business entrepreneurship programs and the small business development centers. It also means there's a bill that came out of the subcommittee I chair on rural economic development in Washington called the Rural Entrepreneur and Microenterprise Assistance Program to help small businesses, because small businesses are the fastest job generators in our area. And we want to make sure we're doing everything we can to get government out of the way, to make sure we get it back in the right direction, that we're fostering a climate that helps business and job development.
Do you support the Bush tax?
Keeping the tax cuts in place?
For the upper echelon,
yeah,
over $250,000?
I voted for the original Bush tax cuts in 2001, 2003. I've never met a tax cut I didn't like, and I will vote to continue to keep those tax cuts in place, because this is not the time to raise taxes on anyone. It's those at the upper end are the ones that are providing the business opportunities, that are the employers that run those small businesses. And then, of course, all the rest of us are in a position that we certainly can't afford a tax increase either. So either way, now's not the time to put tax increases on anybody. And that's why I have a strong record of voting for tax cuts.
As you mentioned, you voted against the auto industry bailout.
Right, and the bank
but
bailouts, all of them. Yep, I voted against all the trade agreements too.
Has the auto bailout worked?
I don't think so. I think the problem we've gone down
Wouldn't
the path.
a lot of jobs have gone away had that?
Well, possibly. That's subject to argument. But when we talk about getting America back on the right track, the way not to do it is just to go and just start handing out money to every other business or industry, which is why I voted against all those bailouts. Because sure enough, what happened is people say, well, then where's my bailout? We don't need to be bailing out Wall Street without bailing out Main Street. And what we need to do is make sure that our local small businesses have access to capital, that they can cut through the bureaucratic red tape, and that they've got job opportunity. And so that's why I have such a clear, strong record on small business, on local business development, working with our local economic development commissions, our local businesses, and our community colleges, as well as our private entrepreneurs.
You did vote for an additional anti-recession stimulus package, $192 billion, an additional $824 billion recovery package, and a $60 billion stimulus package for jobs, infrastructure, and energy. conservatives are hammering away at the spending issue. Is that money well spent?
The original stimulus bill in our area has actually benefited in many, many ways. We can start with the beaches. You get a 320-to-1 return on the money spent on beach renourishment. When we got that extra money through the stimulus bill for the Army Corps of Engineers, look at the blessing that's been. I don't know of any federal program you get a 320-to-1 return on. For every $1 spent, you get $320 generated in local revenue. That is phenomenal. And it's the right thing to do to help tourism, which is the major industry in our area that provides a ripple effect. Money gets spent 6 to 7 times over throughout our region. The other bills you mentioned, we made sure that, for instance, the education jobs bill that we passed on August 10th, that was paid for.
That's the $60 billion stimulus for jobs, infrastructure, and energy.
When that helps, if that was, I'll have to remember that exact bill title, but the one on August 10th, for instance, that helped law enforcement and firefighters and that helped with teachers, that bill was paid for. And like I told you earlier, we want to make sure that we're doing things in a responsible way. When you say it was paid for, how was it? Yeah, within the budget. It was made sure that there were offsets. And I think that's what you've got to do on any of these federal programs.
Rather than through borrowing, is that what you're saying?
Right, rather through borrowing. We don't need to borrow any more money, which is another reason I had a problem with the health care bill, is because we're going to have to borrow more money from folks like China that are not exactly our friends. And I have a great, great concern. That's why I've voted against China having most favored nation status and against all those trade agreements that have shipped jobs overseas.
We're almost out of time. A couple of quick questions. Your position offshore or drilling off the coast of southeastern North Carolina?
I feel like that we should be able to have drilling as long as it's done in an environmentally sensitive way. Now, in July, when I held a forum about the concern over the Gulf oil spill, I said there should be a moratorium until we could find out the exact cause of what occurred and make sure we could protect our coast. I have fought so long for our beaches. We want to make sure absolutely they're protected. Thankfully, off North Carolina, we predominantly have natural gas, and so we don't run into the same problems we run into with regular oil. So clearly, the more we can wean ourselves off of dependency upon foreign fuels, the better off we are. So if we can drill in an environmentally sensitive way, then yes, we should be able to drill.
You dealt a strong blow to the North Carolina Ports Initiative to develop that mega port off Southport when you declined to support it, and some say that after the dust settles, that project will resurface for another push. Is the door closed on your end?
Well, there's a lot of serious questions that will have to be answered first. There are environmental questions, there's national security questions of its location, which I described earlier with the nuclear plant that would be located there, as well as Sunny Point. There are concerns about the effect on property, on infrastructure. The state provided, no money. They cut out the funding for that. They cut out the legs from any consideration of that.
Are you open to looking at it?
Well, we'll always look at possibilities, but I'm very, very concerned about that international port project that was proposed.
Okay,
and that's why I went on record as opposing it, because that did not answer those questions.
One last question. Skyway Superbridge, it's a big issue in this region. There's not enough money to build it, to support it. Would you support federal money, finding federal money for something like that?
If it's available, we have to be very careful. Again, you've got to make sure what can be done to assist. For instance, the new I-74 that I've long fought for to be an economic lifeline through the center of our district, through the federal transportation funds, we have been able to get money to help build, for instance, 2 new overpasses in Columbus County to help bring that up to standard. We've also had other federal money come in to help improve US 74 up to interstate standards to get ready for the future I-74. That's something that has to be looked at, at the budget at that time, what appropriations may be available for projects that are of regional and national significance. And that's where it has to be merited. So it's not a pork barrel project, but it's a project that would be of national and regional significance, the same way that we've approached the Intracoastal Waterway and our beaches and I-74, because those are projects that clearly benefit an entire area.
Congressman,
thank you so much. Always good to be with you.
Mike McIntyre, the second half of our 1-hour special on the 7th District U.S. House race. Be sure to join us starting Monday from 5 to 6 every afternoon for our special Byline Election 2010 series. Every day we'll be covering important races just before the November election. I'm Don Ansell for Byline Wilmington. You have a great day.
You've been watching Byline Wilmington on CBS 10 WILM. Join us every Sunday morning as we explore the issues that concern you.